indeed the ulama, they are the warathatul anbiya. They are the inheritors of the prophets. For indeed the prophets do not leave behind dinar nor dirham. Rather what they leave behind is ilm, is knowledge. And whomsoever takes it has taken a great treasure. In a narration, or in the same narration, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that everything in the heavens and the earth seeks forgiveness for the scholar. Even the fish in the ocean seek forgiveness for him. Why? Because of his knowledge. Because of what he carries and what he calls to. So yes, we love the scholars, but we don't have to ta'assub towards any single one of them. We love them due to the truth that they carry. And we follow them in that which they bring by way of evidence from the Kitab and the Sunnah. This is why we love them. This is why we love Abu Hanifa, and Imam Malik, and Imam Shafi'i, and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and Abdullah ibn Mubarak, and Imam al-Bukhari, and Imam al-Tirmidhi, and Imam Muslim, Ibn Majah, Abu Dawood, Sufyan al-Thawri, Hamad ibn Salama, Hamad ibn Zayd, Ibn Qayyim, Ibn Taymiyyah, Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi, Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab. Why do we love all of these ulama? Because they connect us upon that straight path going back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We love those who love them, and we despise those who despise them, because they are the inheritors of the prophets. It is not permissible to despise an inheritor of a prophet. This is who those scholars are. In our times that we are living in now, almost every mosque that you see, they will say that our mosque has a scholar, and I take my religion from him. So anyone who screams up, or anyone who rubble raises, and anyone who stands up upon the minbar becomes a scholar to them. Why? Because in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man becomes king. We are living in a land, if you were to memorize 5 hadith, just 5 hadith, and maybe 10 surah from the Quran, 10 chapters from the Quran, you were to memorize them, you know more than 95% of the Muslim population in Britain. Just by memorizing 5 or 10 hadith, or 5 or 10 surahs from the Quran. So that is not an example of your immense knowledge. Rather, it is an example of the lack of knowledge of the society around you. You want to know ulama? Then you will find ulama in the lands of the Arab, predominantly. In the lands of the Arabian Peninsula, in Kuwait, in Saudi Arabia, in these lands, in Yemen, you will find ulama, scholars, who will guide you towards the Book of Allah, towards the Sunnah of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wallahi, the Salafis, because when we ask, who is the saved sect in our time? There is only one group of individuals in the times that we are living in, who adhere to the way of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. Because every sect out there says Quran and Sunnah, does it not? Everyone, you say to them, do you follow Quran? Yes, of course I follow Quran and Sunnah. Do you follow? Yes, I follow Quran and Sunnah. He's worshipping at the grave, you say you follow Quran? Yes, I follow Quran and Sunnah. He's marching in the street on the birthday of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know, singing songs all through the night, and marching in the streets on what they claim is the birthday of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You tell him, you following Quran and Sunnah? Yes, of course you follow Quran and Sunnah. Huh? You see a person making tawaf around the grave in Pakistan or India, or even, you know, in some of the Arab lands, such as Iraq, or in Sudan. And you find people making tawaf around the graves. You say, you follow Quran and Sunnah? Yes, I follow Quran and Sunnah. The claim is easy. The words fall off the tongue easily. Quran and Sunnah. But Quran and Sunnah is not just merely a claim. Rather, it is not just even Quran and Sunnah. It's Quran and Sunnah and Sahaba. Because without the Sahaba, you have no understanding of the Quran and the Sunnah. In fact, you have no Quran without the Sahaba. The Sahaba preserve the Quran. The Sahaba preserve the Sunnah. They are the ones who conveyed from the Prophet ﷺ. I'm sure every one of you has heard the concept of the chain of narration, the isnad. The chain of narration that connects the text of the hadith through a chain of narration of men and women sometimes, going all the way back to the Prophet ﷺ. You all heard of the concept, I'm sure. In that chain of narration, Every single individual is to be questioned with regard to his truthfulness, with regard to his memory, with regard to his trustworthiness, with regard to his precision, with regard to whether he opposes others who are stronger than him. Everyone is to be questioned with regard to the strength of his memory, the strength of his trustworthiness, and so on, up until you reach the companions. Do you question the companions? In a chain of narration, when the scholars, they say, we have checked this chain of narration, like Imam al-Bukhari or Imam Muslim, Imam Abu Dawood or Tirmidhi and so on. When they check the chain of narration, they check every narrator. Do they check the companions? Well, let's just check if Abu Huraira is 100% or not. Did he forget? Did he not forget? Did he get confused? Do they say that about the companions? What do you think? Never. The companions, every one of them is trustworthy. So they'll question the one who sat with the companions. So they'll question, for example, the strength of Nafi, the freed slave of Ibn Umar. They'll question Imam Malik. Imagine. Question his strength and his trustworthiness in narrating hadith. They will question Imam Shafi'i. They will question Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi. They will question Abdul Razak al-San'ani. They will question Ahmad ibn Hanbal himself. Will they question Abu Huraira? Never. Once it hits the companion, the chain of narration, you stop there. If the companion said the Prophet said it, then the Prophet said it. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. You don't say, well, let's check out this companion. If Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said the Prophet ﷺ said it, then he said it. Because all of the companions are trustworthy, every last one of them. They are not to be questioned about their authenticity. Everyone else in the chain of narration is to be questioned. So now, in our times, what is the thing that distinguishes the saved sect from all of the other sects? What distinguishes us in this time is that we follow the Quran and the Sunnah with the understanding of the Sahaba. Not just in statement, but in action. We don't say one thing and do another thing. We don't say Quran, Sunnah, Sahaba. Now let's go on the anti-war march outside the Houses of Parliament in London. But you just said Quran, Sunnah, Sahaba. What are you going on a march for? Well, you know, we have to live in our times. We love the Sahaba, but we need to live in our times. You say, okay, what are you marching in London for? Anything can be distilled down, my brothers and sisters. Let's distill it down. They go marching in the streets of London. Outside the Houses of Parliament, anti-war demonstration. Stop the war coalition. And you say, but you just said to me Quran, Sunnah, Sahaba. He said, yes, Quran, Sunnah, Sahaba. So what are you marching for? Is it jihad? They say, yes, it is a form of jihad. Say, mashallah, okay. If it is jihad, then is jihad ibadah? They said, yes, jihad is ibadah. Is ibadah worship? Is it tawqifiyah? Or is it ijtihadiyah? Is ibadah worship? Is it something that has to come from revelation? Or can you make your own conclusion in ibadah? For example, I feel really pious tonight, so I'm going to pray 13 raka'ahs for Maghrib. Is it allowed? So instead of praying 3, I'm going to pray 13. Is it allowed? Yes or no? Why not? Did the Prophet ﷺ don't pray 13? Did he say don't pray 13? He didn't say don't pray 13. Did he say don't pray 5? He didn't say don't pray 5. All he said was pray 3. So why can't I pray 5 or 8 or 13 or 21 for Maghrib? What prevents me? What prevents me is that statement of Sufyan or Imam al-Awza'i, stop where the people before you stopped. What sufficed them suffices you. And the Prophet ﷺ stated, every bid'ah is misguidance, and every misguidance is in the hellfire. So the Prophet ﷺ did not exceed upon 3 for Maghrib. So we do not exceed upon 3. He prayed the 2 nafil afterwards, but he did not exceed upon the 3 for the fard of Maghrib. Agreed? So now every point of ibadah, every aspect of ibadah is like that. If something is considered to be an act of worship, then there must be a textual evidence to show that it is allowed. If the Prophet ﷺ was able to do it, then he would have done it. Or if the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to do it, then he would have done it. Did the Prophet ﷺ ever go out marching in the streets of Mecca? Don't tell me you saw the message. Wallahi. Remember I was giving a lecture, I think it was in London, one of the universities. One of this sect called Al-Muhajirun, I prefer to call them Al-Mujrimun. He stood up and I said, there is no evidence for rallies and demonstrations in the streets. He said, yes there is. I said, what's your evidence? He said, the companions did it. They marched to the Kaaba. I said, where's your evidence? I saw it in the message. MashaAllah. I saw it in the message. Right, so that's the evidence now. He saw it in a movie. MashaAllah. This is the problem with the Ummah in our times. That the evidence is no longer hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Evidence is hearsay. It looks good, feels good. What are we going to do if we don't do that? I mean, that's another argument that they bring. If we don't march in the streets, then what else do we do? You're patient. And you do that which Allah commanded. You don't invent things because you don't have a text, so I'm going to invent a text. One of them said, in one of his writings, he said, well, there's a hadith of Umar ibn al-Khattab when he entered into Islam. The Umar ibn al-Khattab and Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, that after he embraced Islam, the Umar, he formed 2 rows. Umar stood at the head of one, and Hamza stood at the head of the other. And they formed a line, and they walked to the Kaaba, and they prayed in the Haram. I said, yes. He said, there you go. I said, there you go, what? He said, that was a demonstration. I said, what demonstration? He said, that was a demonstration. I said, first of all, the hadith is weak. Ibn Hajar and others have mentioned that there's a narrator in the hadith who is matruk. He's abandoned. Secondly, that even if it was true, where is the evidence for demonstration? What did they do? Did they fight anyone? Did they have placards? Did they scream and shout? Did they say down with Abu Jahl and down with Abu Sufyan? And, the Kaaba is for the Muslims only and kick out the mushriks from the Kaaba? Any of this? Nothing. Even if you hold the narration to be authentic, and it's not authentic. But even if you hold it to be authentic, the most you can get out of it is that 2 lines were formed and they marched or they walked to the Kaaba and they prayed therein. Or they prayed around the Kaaba. That's the most you can get out of it. Going back to the issue of demonstrations. So therefore, if it is jihad, jihad is an act of worship. You cannot introduce an act of worship without an evidence. So where's your evidence that this is a form of jihad, marching in the streets? They say, okay, it's not jihad. And they're okay, what is it then? It's da'wah. I said, mashallah, da'wah was not ibadah. Da'wah was ibadah. It's worship. So where's your evidence that this was used, demonstrations, placards, and marching in the streets calling for the downfall of this government and that government, and the removal of these troops and that army, that the Prophet ﷺ ever used this as a means of da'wah? No evidence. So therefore what are you marching for? So therefore how is your attachment to the Quran and Sunnah and Sahaba? No attachment. Your attachment is a false attachment. Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, he rightly said that these demonstrations and marches and rallies are from the affairs of the non-Muslims, the disbelievers. And the Muslims follow this example of theirs